After working through patching, hardening, and privilege restriction, you now arrive at a strategy that focuses directly on identity. This lecture is about understanding why identity has become one of the most valuable targets for attackers and why multi-factor authentication exists to protect it. No matter how well systems are patched or applications are hardened, attackers know one thing: if they can log in as you, they don't need to break in. MFA exists because identity-based attacks have become one of the most reliable and scalable ways for attackers to compromise organizations. The Australian Cybersecurity Centre consistently highlights MFA as a critical control because stolen credentials sit at the center of modern cyber attacks. MFA is not about adding inconvenience. It is about breaking a dependency attackers rely on every day. Credential theft rarely looks dramatic. In most cases, there is no obvious hack. Instead, credentials are stolen quietly through phishing emails, fake login pages, malicious links, compromised websites, or malware that records keystrokes. You might enter your password into what looks like a normal login screen. Behind the scenes, that information is captured and reused elsewhere. Attackers do not need to guess passwords when users are tricked into handing them over. Once credentials are stolen, they are often tested automatically across multiple services. This is why one compromised account can quickly lead to broader access. From an attacker's perspective, credentials are reusable, transferable, and easy to monetize. Understanding this helps you see why identity has become the new perimeter. Attackers no longer need to bypass firewalls or exploit complex vulnerabilities if logging in works just as well. Passwords were never designed for the threat environment you operate in today. They rely entirely on secrecy, and secrecy fails when people are busy, distracted, or overwhelmed. Even strong passwords fail once they are stolen. Length and complexity do not matter if the attacker already has the credential. This is the fundamental weakness MFA is designed to address. Passwords also encourage unsafe behavior. Reuse across systems, predictable patterns, and delayed changes all increase exposure. Expecting perfect password hygiene from every user all the time is unrealistic. MFA changes the equation by adding something you have or something you are, not just something you know. This means that even if a password is compromised, the attacker cannot proceed easily. From your perspective, MFA might feel like a small extra step. From an attacker's perspective, it is a major obstacle. Stolen credentials alone are no longer enough. Automated attacks fail, phishing success rates drop dramatically. The attacker must now compromise an additional factor, which is far more difficult to scale. This is why MFA is one of the highest impact controls in the Essential 8. It does not stop all attacks, but it forces attackers to change tactics, become noisier, or abandon the attempt altogether. Not all accounts carry the same risk, and this is especially true when it comes to MFA. User accounts are often the entry point for attacks, but administrator accounts determine the scale of impact. This is why MFA must be enforced more strictly for administrators. For everyday users, MFA protects email, collaboration tools, and cloud services from account takeover. For administrators, MFA protects the keys to the kingdom. An admin account without MFA represents one of the highest risks in any environment. Separating admin and user identities, which you learned in the previous lecture, becomes far more powerful when combined with strong MFA. Even if a user account is compromised, the attacker still cannot access administrative functions without passing an additional barrier. Remote access and cloud services amplify identity risk. When services are accessible from anywhere, credentials become even more valuable to attackers. VPNs, remote desktops, cloud portals, and SAIS applications must be protected by MFA because they are often exposed directly to the internet. Without MFA, a stolen password is all an attacker needs to gain access from anywhere in the world. In cloud environments especially, identity often replaces network boundaries. MFA becomes one of the most effective ways to enforce trust decisions dynamically, based on who is logging in and under what conditions. This is why MFA is not just a user convenience feature, it is a core security control for modern distributed environments. One concern you may hear frequently is that MFA frustrates users. This concern is understandable, but it is often overstated. When MFA is implemented consistently and explained clearly, users adapt quickly. Over time, MFA becomes part of normal behavior, much like locking a door or using a seatbelt. Problems usually arise when MFA is applied inconsistently or without explanation. Clear communication about why MFA exists and how it protects both the organization and the individual makes adoption far smoother. Good MFA design reduces friction while maintaining security. Poor MFA design creates confusion and resistance. The difference lies in planning and empathy, not technology. One of the most common mistakes is treating MFA as optional or applying it only to a small subset of systems. Attackers look for the weakest link, and partial coverage creates predictable gaps. Another pitfall is exempting high-risk accounts for convenience. Service accounts, administrators, and emergency access accounts must be handled carefully, not ignored. Relying on weaker MFA methods without understanding their limitations is another risk. Not all MFA factors provide the same level of protection, and choices should be guided by threat models, not just ease of deployment. Finally, MFA should never be treated as set and forget. Monitoring, reviewing exclusions, and testing scenarios are essential to ensure MFA continues to do what it is meant to do. MFA strengthens every previous strategy in the Essential 8. Application control and patching reduce execution opportunities. Hardening reduces attack surface. Privilege restriction limits escalation. MFA protects the identities attackers rely on to bypass all of those controls. When MFA is applied consistently, identity stops being the weakest link and becomes one of the strongest defensive layers. By the end of this lecture, you should see MFA as more than an authentication feature. It is a risk control that directly disrupts attacker economics. Passwords alone are no longer enough. Identity must be protected with layered controls that assume compromise is possible. MFA provides that layer in a way few other controls can. In the next lecture, you will explore Strategy 8, Regular Backups, where you will see how recovery becomes the final line of defense when prevention fails and why backups turn catastrophic incidents into survivable events. If this lecture helped you understand why multi-factor authentication matters and how it fits into the Essential 8 journey, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is a free educational channel and it costs you nothing, but your subscription and engagement genuinely make a difference. They help keep this channel running and support the creation of clear, practical cybersecurity education for everyone.